giving out motorist information to local governments. The petitioners argued the policy would allow traffic enforcers to apprehend motorists without citing which specific provision of the law they supposedly violated. They pointed out there is no law allowing NCAP's implementation. Failure to pay the imposed fine will bar motorists from renewing their vehicles' registration. Lawyer Juman Paa wants to void the policy after he was told to pay a fine of more than 20,000 pesos despite non-receipt of notices. It turned out the notices of violation were sent to the wrong address. Several mayors earlier issued a statement standing firm behind NCAP's implementation, arguing it would improve road conditions for a safer environment. In a statement, the local government of Manila says NCAP has cut down the number of traffic violations and accidents in the city by more than 50%. The case is set for oral arguments on January 24, 2023. Anjo Alimario, CNN Philippines.
The Supreme Court clarifying the stay order also covers the no-contact apprehension policy separately carried out by the Metro Manila Development Authority. Now, how are transport groups reacting to this development? George Quiles joins us live. George, go ahead.
It'll be a back-to-back wins for the public transport sector. Just yesterday, transport regulators said they will approve the pending petition for a jeepney fare hike. And today, the Supreme Court temporarily stopped the implementation of the controversial no-contact apprehension policy, or NCAP. Petitioner Obet Martin of the group Pasang Masta welcomes this development. He says operators like him will no longer be forced to pay what he describes as exorbitant penalties for traffic violations imposed by local government units implementing the NCAP.
Partial victory on our part, although this temporary stoppage, but ano na nga, lagay ko hindi na titigil lang. Pangungulekta pa ng mga sapat na ebidensya para totally mapigil na ito.
Earlier, the Land Transportation Office met with PUV operators on the implementation of the NCAP. Martin said they raised two concerns with the LTO to allow PUV operators to register their vehicles, even if they have unpaid penalties from the NCAP, and asked the LGUs to lower their penalties. But looks like these concerns are water under the bridge, at least for now, because of the High Court's order. As for the jeepney fare hike, the LTFRB says it is inclined to approve it, but it's a different story for bus operators who are appealing to NEDA to submit its opinion so that they can already move forward with their bus fare hike petition.
Sana po whoever is in charge para do sa comment po ng petition for fare increase ng mga buses, yung provincial and metro buses, please lang po, bigyan nyo naman po kami ng konting hinga kasi ang controllable po ang presyo ng ating diesel dahil hindi naman atin to. Sana maintindihan nyo naman po kami kasi 10 years na po kami hindi nagpe-fare increase.
The LTFRB has been waiting for NEDA's opinion on the bus fare hike since the middle of August. Pia?
George, what did the LTO say about this stay order?
Well, the LTO also welcomes the Supreme Court's TRO, saying that this will buy the agency time to sit down with all stakeholders and discuss issues related to the policy. The agency hopes to come up with a framework and set of guidelines that will make the tagging of traffic violations through NCAP more responsive, efficient, and compliant to the data privacy law. Yeah.
George Quiles there reporting. From transport to food supply concerns, it appears the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee's investigation into the sugar importation mess will not be over anytime soon. Senators want a key official who skipped today's hearing to answer more questions, while the beverage company revealed temporarily closing down 5 of its plants. Amor Santos has more.
More questions than answers as Executive Secretary Vic Rodriguez skips the second Blue Ribbon hearing on the sugar importation mess. Rodriguez had to attend the cabinet meeting, the same excuse he gave at the start of last week's probe. Minority Leader Coco Pimentel says the inquiry cannot be terminated without answers straight from Rodriguez.
Sana nandito si Executive Secretary Rodriguez, sir, kasi meron akong tanong sa kanya tungkol dito sa kanyang testimony before us as a lawyer, meron ako napupunang inconsistency lang konti. Plus, to get his interpretation of that memorandum circular, July 15 yata ang date noon, which he gave to Yusek Sebastian.
Leo Sebastian, who signed the order to import 300,000 metric tons of sugar on behalf of President Bongbong Marcos, says the chief executive has yet to accept his resignation. He's currently under preventive suspension. Former agriculture officials insist they received signals from Malacanang to import sugar to address the supply problem.
Feedback was that there is a more or less agreement that the importation program is a go.
Opposition Senator Risa Ontiveros has questions for the executive secretary.
Nahihiwagaan talaga ako, former Administrator Serafica, no? What happened on the sidelines? Why send signals na pabor sa importasyon, hindi nag-object, tapos babawiin pala?
Sugar miller Paulo Lobregat earlier told CNN Philippines the palace may have been misled by reports of alleged hoarding in warehouses. Acting Customs Commissioner Yogi Filimon Ruiz clarifies they were only inspecting warehouses.
The letter of authority, Mr. Chair, is an order signed by the Commissioner of Customs authorizing a customs officer to conduct a visit on a warehouse suspected to contain imported goods. We give the warehouse owner 15 days to present the necessary documents proving that the goods stored in that warehouse are indeed have indeed been paid with the lawful duties and taxes.
As the probe continues, stakeholders and consumers are bearing the brunt of the issue. Coca-Cola has confirmed the shutdown of their plants, at most 5 of them, due to lack of Butler's grade sugar. The company says they are still paying employees. Sugar prices reached as high as 110 pesos per kilo before the government appealed to major supermarkets for relief. Senator Grace Poe is suggesting to earmark 20 pesos per kilo of imported sugar to support the local industry. Amor Santos, CNN Philippines.
The Agriculture Department sounds the alarm over the low supply of salt in some vegetables. Officials admit food production is low as they seek more help from lawmakers.
We have no importation of yellow onion since January. So the last arrival of onion was January, and the rest is local stocks. While the harvest that was harvested from April, March was computed to last only on 3 to 4 months. So that's why at this time the supply of yellow onion is zero or scarce.
We are not sufficient at all pagdating po sa garlic, sir. No, we are dependent on importation.
Lawmakers may decide how much money will go to food and agriculture. More stories ahead. The Health Department, in a bid to ramp up vaccination, launches a booster drive at a local wet market. And the Education Department probes alleged sexual harassment issues in a school in Cavite. Keep it here on Newsnight.
RPN DXKP Pagadian, ang inyong Radyo Ronda. RPN Radio Philippines Network. Radio Philippines Network. Live to the world, pinaagi sa FB page, karon mag-download na. Pinaagi sa Google Play o Apple Store, YouTube o Twitter. Alang sa mas ipakuskan ng mga balita, komentaryo, kasayuran o kalingawan. Ang mas ipakuskan ng inyong Radyo Ronda. Member, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Welcome back to CNN Philippines. Pag-asa is monitoring two cyclones this week. First, a cyclone internationally known as Hinamnor is now a super typhoon. It is still outside the Philippine area of responsibility, but is expected to enter tomorrow evening. And for those traveling by water, the Weather Bureau warns Hinamnor may cause rough seas over the northern and eastern seaboard of Luzon by late Thursday. And the low-pressure area east of extreme northern Luzon has become Tropical Depression Gardo. It was last spotted 1,185 kilometers east of extreme northern Luzon. Pag-asa says Gardo may develop into a tropical storm within the next 24 hours. The Health Department launches a COVID-19 booster vaccination drive at a wet market in Quezon City. Over 500 people at the Commonwealth Market received their primary and booster doses for the Pinas Lakas vaccination drive. The program is in partnership with the Quezon City government and aims to make vaccines more accessible to communities. Protect the students. This is the call of victims allegedly harassed by their teachers at the Bacoor National High School in Cavite. Carrie Cater tells us how education officials are addressing the matter.
18-year-old Jose, not his real name, used to study in this high school in Bacoor City in Cavite. He was in grade 9 learning from home at the height of the pandemic in 2020, but could not escape the horrors of abuse from his own teacher.
Madalas nag-chat siya kung gusto niya po mag-meet up kami doon sa bahay niya, and hindi po niya directly sinabi ko anong gusto niya gawin, pero we all know kung saan po pupunta yan, and then minsan gusto niya po baby na lang daw po itawag ko sa kanya. Hindi na po, sir. May instances ko po na nag-joke siya na doon na lang daw po ko tumira sa kanila.
Jose admits the incident has taken a toll on him, like any other victim of sexual harassment.
Pero po siya actually epic na kapag nakaka-call po minsan sa labas or around sa mga streets ng mga gay people na nakakatakot na natin po kasi hindi po namin alam kung ano pong gawin nila.
Screenshots of messages showing teachers allegedly making sexual advances and other inappropriate comments to students have angered netizens on social media. 7 teachers are under investigation for alleged sexual harassment, up from the 6 initially reported by the Education Department. The Bacoor City Schools Division Office reiterates the call of DepEd, zero tolerance for any form of abuse on students.
We are saddened po dito sa mga ganitong mga news, sa ganito pong mga pangyayari. And katulad nga po ng sabi po ng ating spokesperson ng DepEd, hindi naman po talaga natin ito tinotolerate.
DepEd spokesperson Michael Poa says those involved were not given any teaching load while investigation is underway. Victims like Jose are hopeful justice will be served.
Sana makulong yun, dapat makulong, and mawalan ng lisensya yun, dapat mawalan ng lisensya kasi yung mga sexual harassment po nowadays is hindi po talaga biro magmula, and it's very traumatizing thing po para sa mga taong mahihina rin po yung loob.
Education officials advise students not to be afraid and speak up about these forms of abuse. Carrie Cator, CNN Philippines.
CNN Philippines reached out to school officials, but they refused comment. The Commission on Higher Education will relax its rules to ensure the smooth transfer of students affected by the sudden closure of the Colegio de San Lorenzo School in Quezon City. CHED signed a memorandum of agreement with several universities and colleges to ease certain provisions of the Manual of Regulations for Private Higher Education. Doing so may allow more subjects to be credited or for students to retain their academic standing, particularly those vying for honors.
We are authorizing or allowing the universities to exercise discretion and exercise flexibility in how they determine the units that will be credited.
Each university and private higher education institution would have institutional subjects. These institutional subjects are developed by the institution. So what we did was to waive these institutional subjects so that they could easily be graduate within this time, and they would have the timely graduation.
If they will be graduating with honors, it is of value to them that in spite of what happened to them, they will be able to continue with their quest for the honors. So it could be a potential look into to make sure that makikarry yung grades coming from the San Lorenzo.
Colegio de San Lorenzo says 96% of its college students and 94% of basic education students have received their tuition fee refunds. The Philippine National Police will deploy more personnel in crime-prone areas and schools following reports of abduction of young women. PNP Chief General Rodolfo Azurin says they're coordinating with local governments to ramp up police presence in communities as they verify reports of alleged abductions. The PNP previously clarified that suspects arrested in Bulacan, Palawan, and the Calabar Zone region had different motives, meaning these are unrelated incidents.
Rest assured po na any po na report po na mahahagip po natin, whether in social media, actionan po ng ating kapulisan, and we really empathize with yung mga nabibiktima po. That's why ang order po natin sa ating kapulisan is talagang yung full police presence po sa within the community, and then they coordinate with the different barangay officials.
Meanwhile, House Committee on Public Order and Safety Chair Dan Fernandez advises netizens to be extra cautious about videos circulating online, as some of these cases have already been solved. Fernandez says these are causing unnecessary panic. The Philippine Charity Sweepstakes Office is asking Congress to slash the documentary stamp tax on lotto tickets. The PCSO wants it reduced from 20 to 5% to increase funds for medical assistance. PCSO Chairman Juni Kua told the House Appropriations Committee that the 20% tax has, quote, practically paralyzed the agency. Nearly 63% of PCSO's charity fund expenses for this year went to paying the tax.
Prior to the 20% DST charge against the charity fund, PCSO was able to provide assistance ranging from 500,000 to 1 million for severe critical cases. Currently, however, to keep a balanced budget, PCSO can only give hospitalization assistance between 20,000 to 50,000. Dahil sa priority silang dinididak muna itong mga ito, kung ano na lang yung matira. So, ano nangyayari, after deducting all of this mandatory contribution, which is pegged to the total sales volume, kung ano matira, yun lang ang naiiwan sa map.
In other stories, a survey shows there are now more people owning bicycles than cars since the beginning of the pandemic. Carrie Cater returns to tell us how the government plans to make roads safer for cyclists.
Cyclists like Lon and Andre only have one wish: to have more bike-friendly roads.
Mas nakakatulong kasi unang-una, maibsan yung trapiko at saka pag sa pasok ng trabaho, mapadali po.
Mas efficient talaga siya kaysa sa motor o kaya sa bus or sa kotse kasi wala ka ng gastos. Kumbaga, ang gastos mo lang yung sarili mong pawis, ganun, sarili mong pagod. Pero win-win situation kasi siya kasi parang exercise na rin siya para sa atin.
A recent social weather station survey found more people have turned to cycling since the COVID-19 pandemic struck. 1 in every 4 households now own bicycles compared to car owners. For active transport specialist Karen Crisostomo, this comes as no surprise, especially with more people now out and about.
People are making that shift because they're tired of that. Traffic has been a perennial problem through the years. People are tired of being stuck in traffic.
The SWS says safety remains a concern among most bicycle owners, with 80% seeking safer and better roads.
When you look around you, you can really see that there are people who are lining up, maybe to use even the LRT, MRT, or who are walking on the sidewalk. But many of the people who are in their cars don't seem to realize that that these people need road space.
What we have today is a very loud and clear message to our policymakers, to our legislators, to people who are deciding on the budget. We need to spend more. We need to promote more cycling in all our cities and to make our streets safe for everyone on two wheels.
The Transportation Department recognizes the higher demand for cycling but admits the country still has a long way to go.
Kaya we are doing our best so that yung mga nagdadala po ng sasakyan ay mainggan yung iwanan muna ito, mataas din ang presyo ng produktong petrolyo at gumamit po ng ating bisikleta o ng public transportation.
Authorities are now working to extend bike lanes to almost 400 kilometers nationwide and put up end-of-trip facilities for people going to work and even to schools. DOTR Undersecretary Mark Steven Pastor says they aim to get the ball rolling this year as cyclists hope more people will push for safer spaces for two-wheelers.
Ang kotse kasi maraming space na kinukuha eh. Isipin natin yung bus din, masyado rin siyang hassle para pumila. Sa tingin ko, kung mas maraming tao ang nagbabike, mas luluwag yung daan.
Caricator, CNN Philippines.
Overseas paleontologists are in awe after discovering the remains of what could be Europe's biggest dinosaur fossil find yet. The 82 feet long and 40 feet tall fossilized dinosaur was found in Pombal, a city in Portugal. It is believed to be a sauropod, a herbivorous dinosaur with long neck and tail. The remains were believed to be 135 million years old. Researchers are planning to excavate the rest of the area where the skeleton was discovered to look for more parts of the fossil. Up ahead, Gilas puts on a show as it routes Saudi Arabia in the FIBA Asian qualifiers. Plus, Philam's stand-up comic Jokoy is back in Manila for the Easter Sunday movie premiere and more. You're watching CNN Philippines.
RPN DXKP Pagadian. Ang inyong Radyo Ronda. RPN. RPN. Radio Philippines Network. Radio Philippines Network. Live to the world. Pinaagi sa FB page. Karon, mag-download na. Pinaagi sa Google Play o Apple Store, YouTube o Twitter. Alang sa mas ipakuskan ng mga balita, komentaryo, kasayuran o kalingawan. Ang mas ipakuskan ng inyong Radyo Ronda. Member, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster now.
Welcome back. Gilas Pilipinas wins its latest assignment in the FIBA World Cup Asian qualifiers against Saudi Arabia in convincing fashion. Pauline Versosa gives us a recap of yesterday's match.
A rousing win on home soil capped off Gilas Pilipinas' campaign in the fourth window of the FIBA World Cup Asian qualifiers. Despite a shaky start, the national team made quick work of Saudi Arabia and dominated them with a 38-point victory. Gilas rode once again on the hot performance of Philam NBA player Jordan Clarkson, who finished with 23 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists in his first game at home.
That doesn't go. Jordan, got to shoot it. Pulls up from halfway. Gets it to fall.
The Utah Jazz star put on a show in front of over 19,000 fans at the Mall of Asia Arena on National Heroes Day, which included President Bongbong Marcos and former President Rodrigo Duterte. Kai Soto and Dwight Ramos, who finished with 16 and 9 points respectively, powered the Philippines in a second-half surge that limited their opponents to just 8 points in the third quarter. Saudi Arabia never recovered as Gilas cruised to the blowout win 84-46.
Well, the one thing that we wanted to focus on before the game was to just get better, to play better than our previous game against Lebanon. And that meant having better effort.
The home crowd, however, did not hide their displeasure as they soundly booed head coach Chot Reyes throughout the game. But after the win, Clarkson passionately defended the veteran mentor who has been under fire for the team's lackluster performance at the international level.
You know, for somebody to get rocks thrown at him for putting all this together and, you know, bringing me, Kai, his dream, his vision that he had coming back to the game. So I think we all should support him and support what he got going on because, you know, in this next World Cup, whatever we got, we all got to have each other's back.
I'm sure you know how many haters I have. I know that there are also supporters, maybe not as vocal, maybe not as noisy. But as long as I can inspire one or two individuals, then it's all worth it. Murahin nyo na ako, bash nyo na ako ng todo. Basta supportahan nyo yung team.
Reyes says versatility has been the team's biggest takeaway from this window, but they will need to form another formidable lineup for the upcoming November qualifiers. A tough challenge, especially with the PBA, NBA, B-League, UAAP, and NCAA season taking place. Fortunately, Reyes says local stakeholders have committed to lending players, even if it means calling a 2-week break if necessary. Pauline Berzosa, CNN Philippines.
In entertainment, Jokoy is back in Manila for the premiere of his movie Easter Sunday. The movie features an all-Filipino ensemble and circles around Filipino traditions during the holiday. Easter Sunday opens in Philippine cinemas on August 31st. In a press conference earlier, Jokoy spoke about his intentions to make more inclusive movies and open doors for other Filipino artists.
And I'll believe in those people because that's what they're here for. Just like you're going to believe in me to get more work for Filipinos in Hollywood.
Wow. Yes.
And I think that's very important.
Jokoy's comedy show Funny is Funny World Tour is also happening tomorrow at 8 in the evening at the Mall of Asia Arena. From movies to concert shows, music festival K-Pop Masters is back for another episode with an even hotter roster. After the initial success of the K-Pop Masters event, Pulp Live World announced a second show happening on September 23rd at the Araneta Coliseum with Young Jae, Atiz, and Icon performing. Ticket prices range from 3,500 to 13,500 pesos. Tickets will be available for sale starting September 3. Speaking of concerts, Korean pop meets Pinoy pop in this year's Popstival music concert. Pinoy pop groups Kalista and Vixon are set to perform at the festival. They will be joined by 6 K-pop acts along with other Filipino talents. Popstival is happening on October 21st at the CCP Open Grounds in Pasay City. Ticket sales will be made available at a later date. Now for BTS ARMYs, more details about the K-pop group's free concert in Busan, South Korea are out, including how you can score tickets. Here's a look at the seating map for BTS's show on October 15 at the Busan Ilgwang Special Stage. ARMY membership holders can reserve tickets through the fan club raffle today until Thursday on the Weverse app, while general reservation opens on September 19th. The concert will be 90 minutes long and is meant to promote Busan's bid to host the 2030 World Expo. Fans here at home can also watch through live stream. And that is it for tonight. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
When you wake up in the morning, it's not uncommon to find strands of hair on your pillow or your blanket. Now, according to the American Academy of Dermatologists, it's normal to lose actually 50 to 100 hair strands per day. They call this hair shedding. But then there is hair loss or alopecia, which is an entirely different thing. Hair loss is an autoimmune disease where we lose partial or large portions of our hair. Today, we will discuss what causes hair loss and how we can manage this condition. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez and welcome to MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. Our guests are here today to give insights on proper management and diagnosis of hair loss or alopecia. With us is Dr. Maria Rica Malyari. She's a dermatologist from the St. Luke's Medical Center and the head of the hair unit. Also with us is Dr. Angela Pineda. She's the Executive Vice President of Derm Clinic. I'll start the discussion with Doc Rica. Let's explain to our viewers kung paano malalaman na legitimate hair loss na ang problema natin. And not just the normal, as we mentioned earlier, may normal hair shedding. When is this hair loss na talaga?
Alopecia is a general term, so it can be hair shedding, presence of bald patches, or just parang gradual thinning. Every day, we normally shed hair. 100 strands a day, pwede pa yan eh. Our hair grows, it has a growing cycle, grows 3 to 5 years, sometimes 7, and then it dies, and it sits there and waits for a new hair to grow from the same root. So the new hair will push the dead hair out, and the dead hair will fall off. So that's a normal hair cycle. But if there are times wherein it's not just 10% of hairs that fall, it's about 30 to 40%, and there are different causes of that. That's not normal already. Sometimes, it's because of you gave birth, you got sick. Now, common because of COVID, dengue, there's a hair fall because of that.
Okay, now I'd like to ask Doc Angela, when it comes to hair loss, maraming factors talaga yan. There's genetic, there's probably trauma for that matter. Even stress can be a reason for hair loss. But here in the Philippines, what are some of the more common reasons kung bakit nagkaka-alopecia or hair loss ang isang tao?
Usually, yung most common, yung androgenetic alopecia. Yun yung most common worldwide. Yun yung tinatawag natin na it's known as the male pattern, or for females, female pattern hair loss. So, I think in the US, siguro mga 50 to 80 million agad yung affected. And sa atin, malaking percentage din na most of the cases, it's because of alopecia.
Kung yung parents ninyo, you see at a certain point na they had hair loss, most likely you may have that as well. But I'd like to ask Dr. Angela, when it comes to hair products, maraming naniniwala, ay madalas kang mag-hair gel or masyadong makapit ang hair products na nilalagay mo. Can this be a cause for true hair loss or alopecia?
It's multifactorial pa din for hair loss, but it's mainly genetic. So usually, when we consider the androgenetic alopecia, namana mo na siya or makikita mo it's in your family line. Like for males, you'd see na mas mataas or tumataas yung or receding yung hairline. Secondly, would be dito sa back area, or usually yun yung area na affected. For females naman, it's a little more different. So usually, it's for the whole area of the scalp na nakapapansin mo siyang unti-unting numinipis, or particularly dito dun sa middle area na parang lumalapad yung scalp area. So yun yung usual common na nakikita. But for mga hair products, there are habits or hair habits that we do that can aggravate or can trigger para hindi maganda yung maging environment on the scalp. So it's not necessarily naman na may cause talaga yung hair gel, but sometimes we need to be wary as well of how we use the hair products.
So after the break, we'll discuss the impact of hair loss on our mental well-being, only here on Mental Health Talk. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and welcome back to MedTalk Health Talk, where caring is our calling. How big of an impact is hair loss to someone's confidence, be able to sociable for that matter? And why is this so? What are some of the main reasons why the confidence of some person who has hair loss is high while others may be very low?
We all know our hair is our crowning glory. When we wake up in the morning, we look at ourselves in the mirror, and then we try to fix our hair. And it makes us feel good when it looks good. That's why we have it permed, straightened, colored, and we do stuff with it. Yung hair and makeup, di ba? Every time we attend a function, do hair and makeup. It matters. It makes you look pretty or handsome. So it really is important for most people. And once the person starts losing hair or thins out, it really becomes a problem. I have some patients who who stopped school, who stopped going to work just because of their hair thinning.
Now, Dr. Angela, let's talk about some of the other reasons. You said the more common one is the androgenic alopecia, or something that is genetic or namamana. Now, let's talk about stress. Let's talk about something that's very difficult emotionally for someone. Can this be a cause for acute hair loss?
Alopecia areata. So yan yung, it appears like there's area of your scalp that's bald. So magmumukha siyang parang it's moth-eaten, or there are areas na maliit lang na patch. It can be range from like 1 centimeter, it's very small, or it can be as big as 3 to 5 inches. So it can be really very big, but it's usually mainly caused by stress. Usually for these kinds of patients, we advise them that it's mainly temporary. It's like the response of the body. It's an autoimmune response wherein it somehow attacks its own cells. But there are tips and there are guidelines that we usually recommend so that they can recover quickly.
Some people, when they see it pass, they'll just wait several months, it grows back on its own. Is this the proper way to address alopecia areata?
Better to have yourself checked by the dermatologist because it can be from other causes. So it has to be determined. Like bald patches can be alopecia areata. It can be trichotillomania. It can be from other causes. So it has to be assessed. So the proper management will be done.
There are so many emotions that come about. Should the hair loss due to treatment, specifically chemotherapy, be addressed? Or is this something part and parcel of the treatment?
For patients with cancer undergoing chemotherapy, they know already that they will be losing hair. So sometimes they're anxious about it. But there are some treatments nowadays, chemotherapeutic agents that don't cause hair fall. So maybe they could ask their oncologist, the cancer doctor, if there's a possibility that they can use some agents that would not cause the hair fall. But if ever they would experience that while waiting for the hair to grow back, because it will grow back naman, it will grow back. Mm-hmm. So just try to enjoy it, wear caps, wear nice bandanas, scarves. Try to look beautiful and feel beautiful even without the hair. You can do many things like camouflage and join support groups because it helps also. There's this in the hospitals where they undergo chemotherapy. Sometimes there are support groups there. Cancer patients go together. They work on some art or they do things together. And there's also Alopecia Philippines, a big group of patients with hair loss here in the Philippines, and they also have this support group where they help each other, encourage each other.
Now coming up, we'll discuss treatments available in the Philippines to help you or your loved ones manage hair loss. Only here on MedTalk Health Talk. Welcome back to MedTalk Health Talk. We have been discussing how to manage having hair loss. Dr. Angela, let's talk about how a certain type of alopecia is properly diagnosed. What are some of the steps? Are there any tests to be done?
The number one is the history, so that we can learn if it's chronic, if it's longer than 6 months, or if there are other factors or if there are systemic illnesses that can affect it. Secondly, we do a physical examination so that we can check the origin. If there are, like if it's trichotillomania, it looks different. The hair looks different compared to when there are other causes. So those are the major tests or the initial tests that are usually done.
In terms of least invasive, what's some of the options available for those with alopecia?
Alopecia kasi can be anything, can be caused by anything. So there are topical medications. If it's caused by an infection, fungal infection, bacterial infection. So there are topical medications, oral medications. If it's your genetic thing, if it's alopecia areata, there are some injections that are available, oral medications also. For trichotillomania, sometimes you have to refer to a psychiatrist for control. So there are different forms of management. But if it's your genetic thinning, like your pattern hair loss, aside from the topical medications that you can apply, there are oral medications. And procedures to be done, like your hair transplant. There's the injection of your growth factors on your scalp.
Now, Dr. Angela, when it comes to other topicals na pinapahid sa ulo, what is currently the most effective or has a significant effect on improving hair growth?
I think the most effective is really minoxidil. It's proven over, I guess, a number of decades already. It's still the only one that's FDA approved in terms of being able to really control or somehow manage or treat hair loss. And for the use of minoxidil, usually it's recommended for males and females. It's used twice a day, and then it's usually observed since hair growth is longer, so it also takes a long time for treatment. So usually you don't really expect results within a month. You usually follow through up to, so you start seeing results maybe 3 to 4 months on, and then you keep using the medications just to see better results.
When it comes to hair apparatuses, wigs, toupees, when is this the best option in trying to manage hair loss?
It's more of us wanting to remember like we have thicker hair. But I guess if, for example, you feel like you need to supplement that with you having to see that you have physical hair on your head, then that's when you can really use it. But it's really dependent because you see some patients naman who know that as long as they understand that in a couple of months I'll grow this back if they have cancer. Or there are some naman who just wait on the process. Then there's no need naman to wear toupees. But for those who really want to look or have a boost in their self-confidence, those are some who really look into wearing wigs and looking for, it's somehow therapeutic for some of the patients that we see.
Now, going on to the more invasive procedures, which is hair transplant, Dr. Rica, please talk about this. When is this a viable option for someone? At what stage of their hair loss? Give us some more information about this, please.
Hair transplant actually is done when the patient really wants it done, and usually we do it on the frontal area because on the frontal area, the bitemporal recession that you notice on the receding hairline, it's what's commonly called. That one will not grow quickly, even with the medications, topical or oral medications, it will not grow back. So it's better to do a hair transplant on that area. But you have to tell the patient how it is, because some people, when they hear of hair transplant, they think you just transfer the hair there. It's not a surgical procedure. Actually, it's a surgical procedure. You get a piece of scalp on the back, a strip, or it could also be follicular. You get each hair follicle from different parts of the hair on the back, and then you transfer it in the front. So it's a surgical procedure that's done. And the patient has to agree that to it because it's a bit expensive.
The visual effect of it, is it indistinguishable from hair that normally grows? And can the activities of someone who has undergone hair transplant do the same activities as they had when they had hair? Swimming, wearing caps, wearing helmets, all of these?
You can do anything normally because it will grow like your normal hair. So that's as long as the caps don't fall, because sometimes even immediately after the procedure or maybe until 2 weeks, you are not allowed to go swimming, do strenuous activities to make the hair strand settle down.
So it's a normal process, and it's good that our viewers know some of the expectations for this to get the maximum results. Now, before we go, Dr. Angela, do you have any tips or advice for our viewers, especially when it comes to hair loss?
I think for hair loss, the number one thing that we want to do is that we understand the cause or we understand the reason for it so that we know how to address it. So that's also our advice to our patients so that they don't panic immediately. Secondly, it's important for you to see your doctor so that they can help you understand more. They can help you walk through the process of how to recover it if it's still recoverable. And thirdly, I guess another thing that's important, since we discussed a lot of treatment options, is that they learn to understand where they're at in terms of accepting hair loss or in terms of their eagerness to go to the most extreme procedures or so, and the relevance that it would affect their lives.
And of course, Dr. Rica, before you go, any tips or advice for our viewers?
Well, aside from that, probably eat a healthy, balanced diet, because sometimes when you go on diets, the hair falls also. And if you're going to use hair products on your hair, not too frequently, even the procedures that you do, like the hair straightening, hair perming, you do it as far away as possible, even the hair coloring, so that the chemicals will not destroy your hair strands. And if you start losing hair, you start noticing that there are bald patches or just a hair fall that's not usual, it's better to go to a board-certified dermatologist to have it checked, so you will know what it is and what to do, so you won't panic.
Very good advice. And with that, thank you very much, Dr. Angela Pineda and Dr. Maria Rica Malyari, for being with us today, sharing your expertise about managing hair loss. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and thank you for watching MedTalk Health Talk. We'll see you again next time.